Hi, it's Ray from Pro Shaper Workshop in Charlton, Massachusetts, and today I introduced this in the last video. I told everybody that we're going to do this back section of the Porsche. We could have done the front one, but we've already done that. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. We're going to do this back section very similar to the way we did the front section, meaning we're going to take off a lot of it all in one go. These panels are 20 gauge steel panels that my students made through many different classes, and because of COVID, a lot of these projects that I started with the students have been kind of hanging, waiting to be finished, so I'm jumping in on this Porsche right now. And my intent originally was to get all these 20 gauge panels all fit and welded together, and that'd be part of my class curriculum, but that didn't happen. So instead of me finishing these 20 gauge pieces, I'm going to take and peel off all the 20 gauge pieces, and I'm going to show you how to make patterns, paper patterns, and then I'm going to use a new technique. I'll show you that in a little bit. But first we're going to show you how you can paper pattern this, and it'll give you the information that you're going to need in order to make this piece. And what we're doing is, when we made this with the students, we made it in a lot of little different sections here and welded it together. And the welding didn't get all finished, but that's not the way we're going to do it now. We're going to do this one piece. We're going to come up like this and go over center, and we'll do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll have one weld here, and then eventually this will weld over here. And this is an easy weld. It's sort of a flat area. It's easy to planish the weld out. Same thing goes for here. It's a lot easier to planish these welds. Down in the valley here would be a little tough, but that's the only spot. And so we're going to take all of these 20 gauge panels off, reveal the wire form, and then I'm going to start making the pattern. So next thing is to get these panels off. All right, now we have all the 20 gauge panels taken off. We revealed the wire form, and what we're going to do now is use this paper here. And I think this paper is about 7 thousandths thick or so. I believe I got this from Uline, and I use this for paper patterns a lot of times. Of course, this is way oversized, but we'll start way oversized, and we'll use my magnets here. These are rare earth magnets. They hold very, very well. We make them. All right, so we're going to put the paper on. We're going to use the magnets. We have rare earth magnets. We make these. They're the best ones out there. They really hold really well. And I made a little holder, and they actually stick to aluminum too. See, that's aluminum. I put a piece of steel underneath though. But if you have it right on the steel, it's really hard to pull them off. So we make the little holder so it's a lot easier to pull them off. So we're going to stick this on with the magnets, and we're going to chop it away here. So as we cut it, it's going to reveal a lot about what has to happen with the metal. You can see here, that's where that valley is. That wants to go down. So there's going to have to be a lot of stretching on the edge there, or shrinking in the center. Ultimately a shrinking in the center, I believe, right there. So let's cut this away a little bit. We'll mark it first and then cut it. We got a bunch of different ways to cut it. So I'm going to bring this in about 4 inches or so. I'm just guesstimating here. Get another couple magnets on here. And we'll get a preliminary line. This is just going to be a preliminary cut here. And there's our center line right here. So we're going to go beyond the center line, and we'll cut that off. So that'll be our first chop of the paper here. So I get my cordless shears out. That's junk. Now, okay, well, it looks like we got enough material to go around the bottom. Now let's put some slices in it and see what happens. This is where the most relief has to happen here. This wants to lay down, but it can't because it's being held by that. So we'll bring this down like this and see what happens. Okay, that allowed it to lay down. Bring that in a little bit more. Now it looks like we're going to need a lot more metal right in there. Look at that. So that's going to be the tricky part right there. So make these slices. And pull it tight. Let me get another magnet here. Alright, so the significant features of this shape, of course, is a super complicated shape, but we'll break it down into sections. This here is pretty easy. This is just a roll, but it also has a compound to it. So it's just bent over, but it either needs more area in here by stretching, or you can shrink both sides here or do a combo to get the desired roll with the curve. And we're doing this in 050, and always you have to keep in mind that you don't want to stretch it too much because you lose your dent resistance. So a little bit of shrinking on both ends here and a little bit of stretching, blend it all together. That section could go pretty quickly. You can see when I made the cuts, the paper is going to overlap a little bit. Not so much up the top here. It's fitting the wires pretty good, so there wouldn't need to be any shrinking up here, but definitely some shrinking down below. And as we come around the corner here, you can see the cuts they're overlapping quite a bit, which means that there's going to have to be a lot of shrinking to pull that down and under to be able to get that to lay down right. So, and then here we had an unusual situation. There was a little bit of puckering here, and that needs a little shrinking over here, shrinking here, shrinking here, shrinking here. But what the paper reveals is where this reverse curve transitions in here, it's actually going to need a lot extra material right here. So what this paper does by laying it all down and making your cuts is it gives you a good roadmap of where you're going to do your shrinking and where you got to do your stretching. But this was the genesis for me on how to come about making the flexible shape patterns, is that I initially would use paper patterns like this, but I wanted, instead of just a paper pattern showing me where I needed the stretch and shrink, I wanted the actual surface information to be able to lift off, and it totally encapsulates that surface information. So I have taken, and you can take and tape up all these, and you make what I call a proto-flexible shape pattern. It's imperfect because it's not a true surface there. But the other day I had an idea, and I've never done this before. I said, geez, I wonder if I made a proto-flexible shape pattern off of the wireform with Tyvek instead of paper, because this paper is real rippy. But Tyvek isn't. So that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to make a proto-flexible shape pattern off of the wireform. And what I'll do here is I'll actually fill a piece in here so that information would be there, just as if I had molded the flexible shape pattern off of a true surface. So that will all be there, and by following the dictate of the proto-flexible shape pattern made with the Tyvek, I think it's going to make it a lot easier to make this panel. So that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to make a Tyvek flexible shape pattern, proto-flexible shape pattern. Alright, this is the first time I've ever used Tyvek, and I'm converted already. I love Tyvek. Oh, it's awesome. Tyvek, get an idea here, you can't rip it. It's super strong. So what I did different, based on that paper pattern, which I oriented first by just locking it on here, and then I had a very large gap that was going to have to happen in here because I put a slice in there and there was all this material missing. So from that experience, I said, I'll do this a little bit different with the Tyvek. So I made sure that was the first places that I put the magnets, and I laid that in there, so there's no problem there. But look what happened. It created all this extra material over here. So this is going to have to be an internal shrink, and as I showed you on the front panel, yeah, you could internally shrink that with the torch real easy. But we'll try to do an internal shrink on my shrinking tool that I made. I'll finish it up before I make this aluminum panel, and we'll try to get rid of a lot of that extra material. And then up here you can see there's quite a bit of shrinking that's going to happen for this to be able to conform down. So I've got to size this a little bit and cut all the slots in it. I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back on the camera. Alright, so we got the Tyvek all sliced up, and surprise, surprise, this is going to need a lot of internal shrinking right here. You can see I had to make a bunch of cuts and bring it together in order for that to conform. The wires are right here now. They're right on the surface. And there was one slice under here I had to do, and over in here there's a lot of shrinking that has to happen right in here. One little shrink right here, and that pulled that all pretty much together. It's still a little bit oversized. I'll probably trim it down a little bit. But this is the significant feature of this whole panel right here. There's got to be an internal shrink right there if you want to make it one piece. Now we can do that with heat shrinking very easy, but I'm going to try to do this with my reverse shrinking tool. I'll finish it up. I got to put that neck on it if you looked at that video. But I'll do the neck addition before we try to do this panel. So what has to happen here, I didn't get it all taped up. And when I tape these slices, instead of taping it the long way, you want to tape it across, because the tape really needs all the help it can get, more surface area on the tape. And then after I take it off, I'm going to tape all those slices on the inside too. And then that will make this a pretty strong piece, and that will give me a really good roadmap of how to make that aluminum piece. So the next step is doing all the taping in the inside, finishing up the taping on the outside. It's kind of hard to get in here and do it all. So we'll take it off, get it all taped up, we'll trim it back a little bit, and then we'll show you what it looks like after we get that all done. Alright, after making all the slices where I needed to make them and taping it up on both sides, that's what we have. I call it a proto-flexible shape pattern, but there's still a ton of good information there to help me make the panel in 050 aluminum. So the salient features here are, see, there's hardly anything going on over here. I had a couple slices, a little one under here, one under here. And I ended up putting a slice in here too. It was a little tight in there in that valley, so I actually had to open the valley up a little bit. But this was the main feature right here. This needs to be shrunk quite a bit right in here. So we're going to have to do that internal shrink there, and then we're going to have to shrink a ton right here around this taillight housing. So let's take this off and you get an idea of what kind of information this has. Now remember, this is the area value of the panel. It tells me how to change the flat blanks area value into the area value that it needs to be. So we'll put it on the floor here like this. And you can see the features. We got a mountain right here, but it's a mountain with a plane on the top, so that could be made to be rounded here if we wanted to, and then we could shrink those back, the flanges, because there's going to be a hole for the tail light there. But this is the spot here where it's really sunken in, and that has to be shrunk all in there. This is a minor shrink here, and a little bit of a stretch over here, and a shrink over here. So shrink, stretch, shrink, shrink, and the rest of it'll a little bit of stretching, and it'll conform pretty good. So the next installment of this series will be making this panel. My first goal is going to be trying to get a massive shrink right in here, and I'll do that by taking the panel. I'm going to anneal this panel right from the get-go. I'm going to bring it over my reverse curve shrinking tool, and I'm going to shrink that all up like as much as I possibly can, and then I'll be able to set this on the aluminum panel, and it'll tell me whether or not I've done the job or not. Then the next step will be shrinking this. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 would be smoothing it all out. So we have a short week this week because of New Year's coming up, and we're hoping for great things for 2021. A lot of people have been signing up for our class because we have the 20% sale on right now. And we're hoping we're going to get this COVID madness all finished up, and we'll really get cranking on a lot of these projects, making a lot of videos. And I appreciate you watching the videos, and please share and subscribe. And this is Ray from Pro Shaper Workshop. Thank you.